Oh man, I don't know what happened, but it suddenly got like 100 degrees in here. I am so sweaty and disgusting. Hello Internet, this is Olin from What I'm Listening To. I hope you all are continuing to stay safe, stay healthy, keeping those hands nice and clean, and washing and sanitizing your hands after you wipe your sweaty brow like I just did. It is still currently August 29th, 2021. It is now 10:24 p.m. I just finished recording a New Editions video that you probably already saw last week, and I'm still here, and I'm going to show off even more New Editions. You know how this show works. Let's just jump right in. The first CD I have for you today, I have David Bowie's Earthling. David Bowie really doesn't need any introduction. It's David Bowie. You should know who he is. This particular album, I feel like, is one of his underdog releases. It was put out sometime in the mid to late 90s, and it shows David experimenting with electronica and drum and bass music. I think at the time, many of his fans were left scratching their heads, wondering what the hell this was. But as the years have gone on, I feel like this album has now been recognized as one of his better ones. And it really just goes to show how ahead of the curve David was when it came to making pop music. David was paying attention to what was relevant during that times, and bands like Nine Inch Nails and Filter were popular, which probably influenced that sort of electronica sound on here. And it dawned on me that I didn't own a copy of this in my collection, nor do I own any of his 90s albums. So finally adding this one to the collection. It's a great album. Highly encourage you all to check it out, and rest in peace, Bowie. We'll miss you.
On the day, I'll take you by the hand, and I'll walk you through the doors.
The next CD I have for you today, I have California by the American Music Club. This is a band that I'm not terribly familiar with, but I have listened to a couple of their albums and have enjoyed them. They're a group that's from here in San Francisco, and they make very, I guess you could call it, challenging folk rock music centered around the West Coast. And I've actually been looking for this particular album, not because I've listened to it and enjoyed it, but one of my favorite bands, Flying Saucer Attack, actually credited this album as one of their biggest influences. So naturally, I had to give it a listen myself, and I was very excited to find a copy of it in our employee recommendation area. Shout out to my coworker, Steely. You can't see it, can you see it? I'm gonna focus on that. There we go. Shout out to my coworker, Steely, for recommending this. But yeah, I'm very excited to listen to this. I don't expect it to sound anything like Flying Saucer Attack, but if it sounds anything like the later albums of theirs that I've heard, then I'm sure I will enjoy this one. The next CDs I have for you today come in pairs. I have two albums by the band Allison Chains. Allison Chains is a legendary grunge, heavy metal, doom metal band that originated in the 90s but is still going to this very day. Although the newer albums no longer feature vocalist Lane Staley, who passed away at too young of an age. But instead, William Duvall fills that vocalist, rhythm guitarist slot, and to be honest, it still sounds really good. Their comeback album, Black Gives Way to the Blue, is easily one of my favorite Allison Chains albums. In fact, it might be one of my favorite doom metal albums for that matter. I know that might be kind of a hot take, but I'm sticking with it. It's a great album. And these two albums are the albums that came right after Black Gives Way to Blue. So we have The Devil Put Dinosaurs here and Rain or Fog. And I've actually not listened to either of these albums, but being a fan of Black Gives Way to Blue, I'm sure I will like these. It's the same lineup, it's the same producer, it's probably gonna sound doomy as all hell. I'm sure I will dig. So yeah, looking forward to listening to these. Hopefully these are as good as I'm imagining them to be. Alright, the next CDs I have are brand new releases from this year. And staying on the topic of metal, I have Wolves in the Throne Room's newest album, Primordial Arcana. Wolves in the Throne Room is an amazing drone, atmospheric, black metal, post-metal band that has been putting out such good music over the last 10 years. But unlike those earlier works, this album strays a little bit away from the droniness and focuses more so on just being a straightforward black metal album with some elements of dark ambient to it. But even with that detail in mind, it's still a solid record. It's the first album they've put out in, I want to say, 4 years, and I'm thrilled that we finally got something. And overall, it's just a really cool, brutal listen. Definitely check this album out if you are a fan of the band. They do not disappoint on here. Easily a highlight of 2021. The next CD I have for you today, I have Lingua Ignota's Sinner, Get Ready. This album has been making waves on the internet because a certain Melon gave it a perfect 10, which is not something we see every day. But aside from that fact, I actually was a pretty big fan of her first release. It was this really unique take on metal, incorporating those heavy, dark elements, but also adding in some industrial, some classical elements, some opera, even just straight noise. And the lyrical themes she touches on are just very disturbing. So much so that it's not the easiest of listens, but if you can get through it, it's very enjoyable. And the same can be said about this album. If you thought the first one was a challenge, then this one is hard mode. All I'll say is, if you listen to the first track and think, I don't know if I can get into this, then you may as well just stop, because you're not going to get into it. But much like that first album, if you stick with it and just really let yourself get taken away by it, it's a very enjoyable experience. A very dark experience, but still enjoyable nonetheless. So shout out to Sargent House for putting out this album. Congratulations to them and to Kristen herself for making this and getting that perfect 10. You deserve it. And you all should definitely check this album out if you're interested in something new and disturbing. Okay, next up, I have yet another Sargent House album. I have Deafheaven's newest album, Infinite Granite. Now, Deafheaven is pretty well known because they really popularized the black gaze genre, the shoegaze meets black metal meets post-metal sound. Though they're not the first band to have done that sound, they were the ones that really put it on the radar for most with their album Sunbather. And after releasing copious amounts of albums doing that sound, Infinite Granite takes a complete break from the metal sound and just focuses on being shoegaze. When the band dropped their first single from this album, some people were all about the change and others were not a fan at all. I personally was really looking forward to it. It reminded me so much of the band Alcest, another black gaze band that released an album ditching black metal entirely and just doing shoegaze. I personally think that album is fantastic. So I had really high hopes about this one. And now that we have the full version, I can safely say I'm still a big fan of the direction they went. There's still some hints of metal in some of the songs, but for the most part, it's all completely different. Twinkly guitar work, clean vocals, very, very atmospheric sound. It's just a great listen, and I will stand by this album. I really like what the band did here, and honestly, I wouldn't mind if they still continue doing this sound. We'll see. I have a feeling they're going to go back to doing the black gaze stuff that they're best known for doing, but you know, that's okay too. We have this album, and I'm fine with it. It's a great listen, and you all should check it out if you're looking for some good shoegaze. Alright, the last CD I have for you today, I'm actually very excited to talk about. I have the debut album by the band The Umbrellas. If you're curious about what's new in the music world of San Francisco, then this is the album you need to listen to. This band is making some of the best jangle pop, indie pop that you'll ever hear. It's just so bright and happy and full of all sorts of amazing melodies. And coolest of all, they're signed onto Slumberland Records, which have put out some amazing shoegaze albums in the past. My favorite in particular being The Lilies. And I'm really happy for these guys because they're experiencing so much success. They've put out this album, it's been released all around the country, and it's selling like crazy. So if you stumble across a CD or vinyl copy of this album, then definitely check it out. It is a great, great listen. Like I said, some of the best jangle pop you'll ever hear. Alrighty then, Internet, that does it for me. Hey, if you have any new additions you've added to your collection, whether it be CDs, vinyl, or cassettes, let me know what they are. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what they are. Also, if you like this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It'll show me the support, and I'll love your face for it. And you can also follow me on Instagram for even more music. I post a new album on there semi-frequently, talk a little bit about it, and it gives you a bit of an insight of what else is in my collection. So thank you all so very much for watching. This is Olin from What I'm Listening To, signing out. Goodbye.
Reality has